Why is Khoja Ahmet Yasaui recognized as a saint by all Turkic peoples of Central Asia? Where is the pantheon of Kazakh Khans located? What does a 14th-century cauldron weighing 2 tons look like? All this in the new episode of Welcome to Kazakhstan project. The mausoleum of Khoja Ahmet Yasaui is one of the most beautiful and majestic structures that have survived from the Middle Ages. None of the rulers of these lands for all 6 centuries dared to harm the tomb of the people's saint. So what is it unique for? We'll find out in this episode. My name is Zakirjan Mamlutov. This is Welcome to Kazakhstan project. Let's broaden our horizons. The history of Turkestan goes back centuries. The settlement, which arose at the intersection of caravan routes, was first mentioned in 500 AD. At first, the city was called Shavgar, then it was called Yassy. The impregnable fortress city was not afraid of enemy raids. It was the city where the great poet and sage Khoja Ahmet Yasaui lived.
Khoja
Ahmet Yasaui is a great saint of Sufism, a special branch of Islam that focuses on spiritual practice and reflection. The prefix Khoja speaks of belonging to the family of Muslim preachers. These are men who once visited Mecca.
Khoja Akhmet Yasaui мы называем Hazret Sultan, султаном всех святых.
We call Khoja Ahmet Yasaui Hazret Sultan, the Sultan of all saints, because for Muslims he is a direct follower of our Prophet's path. He is the founder of the Sufi movement, philosopher, poet. Khoja Ahmet Yasaui was born at the beginning of the 12th century in the ancient city of Sayram, near Shymkent. His parents are Father Ibrahim, Mother Karashashana. They came from local Turks, and they are buried in Sayram. Khoja Ahmet Yasaui received his initial education in Atrar from the local sheikh Aristan Baba. Aristan Baba was the first teacher, spiritual mentor of Khoja Ahmet Yasaui. According to legends, Aristan Baba was an associate of our Prophet, and this legend says that once our Prophet, together with his companions, ate dates, a sacred fruit. One date had been falling out of the saucer all the time, and then our Prophet heard a revelation. He heard that this date belongs to Khoja Ahmet Yasaui and that he will be born in 2 centuries. Therefore, before his death, he gathered his disciples and asked them, "Who will take my amanat?" Aristan Baba came out among the disciples. According to the legend, Aristan Baba was a lone liver, and he lived for 500 years. And 4 centuries later, in the steppe, Aristan Baba met a 7-year-old boy. This boy approached him, asking, "Aksakal, give me my amanat." This boy was Khoja Ahmet Yasaui. According to legends, only the pip of this date remained, which he kept in his mouth for 4 centuries. And through this pip, our Prophet transferred all his knowledge, teaching and strength to Khoja Ahmet Yasaui. Therefore, they are closely connected, and they say, in Medina, Muhammad, in Turkestan, Khoja Ahmet. And after the death of Aristan Baba, when Khoja Ahmet Yasaui turned 17, he specially came to the city of Yassy, to Turkestan, and there he continued to preach Sufism of Islam.
до 63 лет, то есть возраста пророка Мухаммеда.
Having lived up to 63 years, that is, the age of the Prophet Muhammad, Yasawi decided to retire from the world. Being a convinced follower of the Prophet, he decided that he had no right to be at least in any way superior to him, and therefore he retired in an underground cell and never saw sunlight again. Khoja Ahmet Yasaui is recognized as a saint by all the Turkic peoples of Central Asia. This unique veneration testifies to the outstanding mark that the Sufi left in the people's memory. The doctrine founded by Yasawi, that is, Yasawi's tariqah, became a significant doctrine for many centuries. Even in the 19th century, sheikhs at the court of the Bukhara emir belonged to this school.
Мавзолей Ходжа Ахмеда Ясави является одним из уникальных.
The mausoleum of Khoja Ahmet Yasaui is one of the unique monuments of architectural art. The mausoleum was built at the end of the 14th century by order of the great commander, ruler of Mavarana, Emir Timur. Dimensions of the mausoleum are as follows. Length of the mausoleum is 65 meters, width 46, height to the dome 41 meters. The construction of the mausoleum began in 1397, but unfortunately the mausoleum was unfinished because in 1405 Emir Timur, when he was preparing for the campaign against China in the ancient city of Atrar, suddenly died from a fever, although some argue that from meningitis. Therefore, the main southern portal of the mausoleum remained unfinished, and the arch, the peshtak, was left open. And 2 centuries later, in 1591, the Bukhara Khan Abdullah Khan II finished this peshtak. At this he stopped because no drafts had survived. He didn't know how it was supposed to be finished, so he left it that way. And there were no cranes, no technology. With the help of such wooden planks, people have been building, raised such large buildings. And these scaffoldings have been preserved since the 15th-16th century in memory of the time that the mausoleum once remained unfinished.
Сложен мавзолей из кирпичей, но это непривычные нам прямоугольные параллелепипеды.
The mausoleum is made of bricks, but these are not the usual rectangular parallelepipeds. In those years, a completely different brick was used. Its dimensions are 25 by 25 centimeters. The height is 5 centimeters. These are the features of medieval construction. The memorial complex of Khoja Ahmet Yasaui is a huge building. Arch structures have an amazing variety. You can find cross vaults, tromps, pendative, parallel arches, and many other architectural elements. Since ancient times, the mausoleum of Khoja Ahmet Yasaui has performed several functions. The mausoleum itself, a mosque, a khanaqah, a religious school, a library, and an administrative building. In the era of the Kazakh Khanate, the building was used as the residence for the Kazakh Khans. Let's see with our own eyes what is inside the mausoleum.
Из самых красивых помещений мавзолея – белая мечеть.
One of the most beautiful premises of the mausoleum is the White Mosque. Its dome seems to be carved out of white mother of pearl. Daylight flows through special window openings. Well, you must agree, isn't it a feast for the eyes? This is a tile of the 14th century. Truly original tiles from the 14th century? Yes, this is the original, as you can see. In the 80s, the scientist Sofia Takibayeva have been conducting her research for about 10 years, and in the composition of these paints, she isolated a lot of salts, compounds, chemical elements. Nowadays, according to that book, we can make an exact copy of these tiles. But according to the UNESCO Convention, this is not allowed, since the original must always differ from the replica. It should be always like this. And now we made it in a modern way, but that technology is an ancient technology. So there are two fragments. These are originals, and this is replica.
Современно по-нашему, а вот та технология, та древняя технология.
Получается, два фрагмента – это оригиналы, а это реплика.
Kazandık is the central hall with sides of 18.5 meters. Here stands Tai Kazan, a huge cauldron from the 14th century. Tai Kazan is another gift from Emir Timur. In 1393, he ordered it to a famous master from Tabriz. Daniyar, as far as I know, Tai Kazan returned to Kazakhstan quite recently, at the end of the 80s. Is it true? That's right. In 1935, the third international decade of Iranian craftsmen was organized in Leningrad. The cauldron was taken there, and after the conference, it remained in the Hermitage and spent 54 years there. Only in 1989, the Kazan returned to its historical place. Was it easy to return it? Or were there any disputes, conflicts? Of course, there were some. Such an exhibit, it adorned the entire eastern section of the Hermitage, and somehow they didn't want to part with it. But a document was found in which it was written in black and white that the cauldron was taken out of the mausoleum for the decade of Iranian craftsmen. On the basis of this document, the cauldron was taken out of the Hermitage. Well, the cauldron itself is a unique object. It weighs 2 tons and has a capacity of 3,000 liters. Once the cauldron was filled with sweetened water, which was distributed to parishioners as holy water. But the cauldron is not a vessel for storing water. It's for cooking food. Why was it ordered to cast not a vessel for storing water but a cauldron? Because the cauldron, in the everyday life of the nomads, has always symbolized the hearth, prosperity, unity, well-being. This is a very old tradition which was practiced by the Sakas in the 10th, 11th centuries BC. Emir Timur, cast in a cauldron in his own time, renews the tradition already in our minds.
Возобновлять эту традицию уже в наших сознаниях.
Всего внутри мавзолея находится 36 комнат.
There are 36 rooms inside the mausoleum. Of course, the tomb of Khoja Ahmet Yasaui and his cell is of particular importance. In addition, the small palace houses the pantheon of Kazakh Khans, consisting of 43 tombstones. Centuries have passed, kingdoms have vanished, but the mausoleum of Khoja Ahmet Yasaui was not touched by time. This is a unique place that reminds us that a truly holy person will never disappear from the people's memory, and the path to his tomb will not overgrow. This is Welcome to Kazakhstan. Broaden your horizons.